Hello and welcome back to Series 2 of the Ages of Farming podcast. I'm your host, David Langfield. We're kicking off the new series with an episode from our Established Crew series. And for episode 9, I'm joined by John Bruce. John is a 45-year-old farmer from Barooga in the Murray region in New South Wales, where he runs a mixed farming operation covering summer and winter cropping, along with livestock as well as irrigation. This makes John extremely busy, but for the past 3 years, John's also been sharing the day-to-day reality of family farming on his YouTube channel, Farmer JB Australia, and giving viewers a look at the life on Avon Downs pastoral. The channel's grown to more than 5,000 subscribers, and there's plenty of good insight in what he puts out. John's got plenty going on in his farm as well, which we will explore during this chat. So let's get into the episode. Welcome, John.
David, how are you?
Good, thank you. It's finally cooled down for us and we can get a podcast underway for once.
Yeah, it's been a bit wicked the last week, but anyway, it's the way it is.
It sure is. It's been very wicked. I think most of New South Wales has been feeling the heat for once, except for Sydney. They don't seem to feel it at all sometimes.
No.
So probably best to introduce yourself, although you've been doing a lot of this on YouTube, but for people that haven't seen you on YouTube, you got to introduce your operation and what you do.
So I'm John Bruce, or I go by the Farmer JB, or most people know me as JB. So my father's John. So when someone calls me John, I'm sort of looking for the old man. Look, we farm. My wife Sarah and I farm at Barooga. So we're about an hour and 15 west of Albury, or an hour north of Shepparton. We're just on the New South Wales Vic border, so we can put the airport in Melbourne in sort of 2.5 hours if you have a go. So I've grown up on this farm. My father came here in about 68, off sort of family farm at Rennie. I'm the youngest of, I suppose we'll probably get into this a bit, but yeah, I'm youngest of 4, so I've got three older sisters. All went to uni in Melbourne and sort of never came home. I sort of was always probably going to go farming. So you got 2 daughters, Lexi and Molly. School's back officially today. So Lexi's just started year 9 and Molly's first year at high school, so she's year 7. So
yeah. So you've got a fair operation, like what, 2,000 hectares, which is
we're not that big. We're about 1,200 hectares.
Yep.
But we contract farm. We contract farm another 600 to 800 hectares, I suppose. Like that's, spray, sow, harvest. And then we, on top of that, we do sort of contract hay work, and also windrowing. And so that's sort of, we do anywhere around the 800 to 1,600 hectares of windrowing each year. We don't travel, we just sort of stay pretty local. We do have our truck set up so we can move the machine around if we need to. This year we were sort of back a few hectares, so we just walk to the machine everywhere. But yeah, we do a bit of everything. We've sort of got a corporate farm here that we do all their work on, and then sort of another couple of sort of long termers that we've been doing it for a long time. So.
Yeah, so you've got a fairly diverse operation: winter crop, summer crop, livestock, and irrigation.
Yeah.
Where do you start?
I'm a glutton for punishment, David. Look, I suppose I'm not too sure where. We put about 600 hectares of our own of sort of winter crop in, of our own, and then the summer crop, which is either corn or rice. It's rice this year, and just depending on water allocation, we're anywhere from 40 hectares to 100 hectares type scenario. So this year's rice. Last year it was corn. The year before it was corn and rice. It just all depends on where the water allocation's up to and price of water. That's probably the limiting factor on the summer crop job. And then we run. Currently, we've got about 1,300 merino ewes, joining them to Border Leicester Rams. So we've got a pretty good first cross market here in Coral. And yeah, so we're sort of targeting that ewe lamb job. We're not carrying them through the full 18 months. We're getting them to 50 kilos. We're sort of April 1st of April drop. Well, that's when we start lambing generally. Come that store sales usually start of October, mid-October. We've sort of got them to that 50, 55 kilos. So they're borderline joining weight anyway if you were that way inclined. So that's sort of the bones of the enterprise. Yeah.
Yep. We need you fellas breeding first cross ewes because us prime land producers, we've got to get our Border Leicester Merino ewes from somewhere. So it's it's a dying breed of people doing it. Is a bit of a problem.
We were scanning yesterday, and that's what the scanner, he said the same thing. He said you're one of very few that are still, the straight. Some blokes have got the terminals in, as well. So we've sort of toyed with that idea a bit, but we've just stayed, just for probably simplicity, we've just stayed with the borders, and we're still getting all our lambs. Well, I think we lambed about 1,600 now. Had about 1,600 lambs on the ground for 2025, and I think there's be 200 left. Like, we're getting the bulk of them off the place by Christmas or the New Year, so we're getting the growth rates out of them. Yeah, and especially a tough year like we've had last year.
What's your culling rate like in your ewes? How many do you cull down in your young ewes to go to specialist sales?
We probably, obviously, we're doing it by weight. So, like this year, we had. But it's interesting, and it depends a bit. Everyone knows how well the lamb job has gone the last couple of years. So, last year, out of the 800 ewe lambs we bred, there was only 150 got kept as breeders. Like, we sold as breeders. The rest of them got their heads cut off. So, which is, probably goes against the grain a little bit, but you've just got to sort of go where the money is a bit. Whereas this year, we were probably the store price to sell them as breeders was comparable to the meat price. So so we had, I think, a couple of hundred in that Coral store sale, and then we had one of the guy that bought them. He came back and bought some more, a month later, and so we sold basically everything as breeders again this year. So, which is sort of good to get back into that groove. So. That's why we're sort of doing it rather than sending them to abattoirs or something like that.
Yeah, I think anyone that's producing prime lambs, we've got to be in a position to pay you producers who are producing our ewes that we produce our lambs out of. We've got to be prepared to pay a lot more, so you keep in the industry for us.
It is. It's a tricky one. And like we're buying all our merino ewes in, so. Like we're paying, like this year we bought some more young ewes, and we're paying $300 for them. So, you need that. Like my grandfather used to always say, my dad repeats it. You work on paying for that ewe in 12 months' time. So, with the lamb and the fleece, you should hopefully be out of that animal in 12 months' time. And then we sold some coal ewes the other day, and they were rising 7-year-olds, and 30. I think they dressed at 33.5 kgs, like they're $286. So we're only $14 for a replacement ewe effectively. So it's all relative. It's just where and we've done it. Like we were back probably 10 years ago. We were just buying mixed age ewes, before we really sort of nailed down what we were doing, and we just sort of said, well, we had a bit of everything, and so we just thought, well, righto, we'll have a clean out and basically start again. Well, I think I reckon we bought first year. We bought a road train load, so I think there was 700 on the road train. I think they were $360 each. Yeah. You were $250,000 for a load of sheep, nearly. Like it was, and we did that 2 years in a row just to sort of get on the path that we're on now. So, We are in the process of changing bloodlines. We're having a few feed issues with what we had. So, just a bit of probably foot structure issues. And sort of getting long toes and that sort of stuff. So we have sort of switched. We're in the process of switching to a different bloodline, but straight bodied ewe, non-mulesed. We're shearing twice a year. We shear end of February and then again in end of August. So we've been shearing 2 times a year for, I couldn't tell you, 10 years probably now. We've got a really good shearing contractor now. Like, that was nearly going to be the end of the sheep, the shearing contractors. But I don't think I'm probably alone in that sentiment. But we seem to we've got onto a good crew now, and very reliable, and I can ring them and they can be here next week, or and having good facilities. They like coming back here too. Yep. We've got 4 stand. We can put 1,500 under cover if we need to. Shed out our yards, that sort of stuff. So the guys and girls do like coming here because the facility we do. We've put a bit of time into having a good setup.
Yep. This year you've headed more into your rice program for your summer cropping over corn.
Yep.
How did you get on, with getting enough water for your rice? We know the Murray Valley's in a little bit of a problem with water allocation.
How political do you want to get, David?
Don't get political on me.
No, we're on. Well, bottom line is it doesn't rain, so that's the dams haven't got any water in them, so that's the long and the short of that one. Look, we've got 20% water allocation here, so we're on the Murray irrigation scheme, I suppose. So we're pretty fortunate. We're basically at the top of the system. So that system starts in Lake Moala, which is only 25 k's to the east of us. So we bought, we went into the market early and bought the bulk of our water. So I think we probably averaged $190 a megalitre for it. I think now it's currently trading at about $340, $350 a megalitre. So it has jumped a fair bit. Where we sort of sat, we basically, Sunrise came out with a good contract price. So, if you make the quality grade, you're $500 a tonne, or sort of high 400s. So on, $200 a megalitre water, the numbers stacked up really well. At the time, corn was, I think you could get a contract for 400 or 430 or something like that. I got a text message the other day to say, they're quoting 550, 600, so a tonne. So there's probably more upside in corn now. But, at the time, the numbers for rice, even with rices, obviously it uses a bit more water. Even with that extra water, the numbers still came back better for rice. So just purely, corn, although we're getting up there with fertiliser on similar amounts of urea on the rice now, but corn, you're sort of $600 to $700 a hectare for seed. We've got to get someone in to plant it. We've got our own corn front, but whereas the rice we can do everything ourselves until it goes to permanent water, until we put the water on it full time. So and the beauty, one thing about corn is the marketing side of it that I don't like. You've got to have the storage. Like we put silo bags last year, like we put 1,000 tonne down in silo bags, and because we're so close to the Murray River here, once the Corellas found it, it was horrendous. They were worse than them. Blokes up north talk about pigs. Like, these things they were nearly worse than pigs. Like, they were just chew holes in it everywhere. And as soon as you didn't have the scare gun going, or and we had them close here to the house just for logistics as far as getting trucks and that in and out. And you could set your watch to 10 to 7 every morning, and they would come in their thousands. And it was So ideally, like, vertical storage is the way to do it, but we're a long way off that yet. So whereas the rice, you harvest it, deliver it, and get paid for it, and you get onto the next job. So
So talk us through, like how long it takes to grow the rice crop when you start, when you end?
Yep. So we planted it at 20th of October. So it's a funny crop to grow rice because there's multiple different ways you can plant it. So we drill sow it, or what they call drill sowing. So basically just sow it with an air seeder. And then we flush it, which is basically just irrigating it like a conventional flood irrigation. So we did that 3 times this year. So, and in between each irrigation, you might spray it or something like that. And then after the third flush, you'll top dress it and then go to what they call permanent water. So that's putting the water on, permanently, obviously. And then I'll just have to have a look, but that was about the start of December, say. Then they go to PI, which is basically panicle initiation, ours was about the 11th of January this year. So that's when your head is starting to form in the stalk. So a week before that, or 10 days before that, we applied another crossing of urea, and then so hopefully now we've done a couple of we've had a drone in doing a couple of in-crop sprays. So we did a broadleaf and did a grass spray, and then hopefully the next time we're in there is with the harvester. So we're sort of aiming, I reckon, the first week of April. So what's that? 5 months, 5.5 months, roughly, from go to what?
Yep. So you put the water on. It is to keep the crop a lot cooler than it would be with no water on it. Is that the main reason?
Well, obviously uses a lot of water, but the water actually helps insulate that that panicle while it's in the stalk. So you've got a period of about 3 weeks, I suppose. We're starting to drop our water levels back down now. But you sort of, and we've been a bit fortunate, but it can be too hot for it as well. But we've been a bit fortunate at that critical time that it's not so much the daytime temperatures, it's the nighttime temperatures. So you want to sort of try and have a minimum temperature of sort of 14 degrees and above. So last night, I think here, it might have got down to 8 or 10 degrees. So that can, do, if you haven't got your water high to insulate that panicle, what they call a panicle, it can, you can run into a bit of trouble if you're not careful. So, look, hopefully we're past that point, and we had enough water on it to sort of insulate it anyway. So,
yeah, it's a whole different thing. I have seen it being grown, but I just haven't done a lot of work on it. So that's just
it's probably it's probably one of the lazier summer crops to grow, to be honest. Like it's once the water's on it, there's not, as long as you just sort of drive around. I sort of look at it every couple of days, I suppose, and just make sure water levels are okay. There is a bit of automation starting to sneak into the growing of it as well, which is bay height indicator, like water level indicators and that sort of stuff. So sort of probably, I'm not all that familiar with the cotton industry, but there seems to be a lot of work because it's a higher use of water, and it's always seems to be the whipping boy when it comes to irrigation. There's a lot of work being done on making it more efficient. So obviously the technology is keeping up with trying to make it more efficient, which is really good. So
yeah. How much water does it use probably for the season?
Oh, around that 12 to 13 megalitres is where we're sort of generally at.
It's better than it used to be.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, 100%. So, and obviously the varieties have got a lot better. Like the newer variety that we're growing now, it's a VO. They call it. Well, I think it's scientific name is VO71. I couldn't get it out, sorry. And which is Matilda, which it's called. Its fancy name is called Matilda. And I think the last year they were around the 17 ton. So yeah, and like we grew it we didn't grow Ross last year, we grew Ross the year before, and we were around that 13.1, 13.2 tonne to the hectare. So, that's comparable to corn yields.
Yep.
What was sort of been grown with corn. So when you're talking those sorts of numbers and as I said before, with the cost of growing corn, even with the higher water use, it's still the numbers come out really well.
Yep. How difficult is it to harvest?
It's hard on gear and it's hard on blokes, David. It can be. It can be. A down rice crop can be just horrendous on machines. So, you're harvesting it. They want it harvested now at 22% if they can, just to help with the quality. So, and there's a big difference between harvesting at 22% and 18%. It goes through the harvester a hell of a lot nicer at 18% than what it does at 22. Bit of the trouble we're having now, and we're investigating. Hopefully, it's not going to be an issue, but it will be. When the grain moisture is at 22%, your ground moisture is about 40%. So if you're not careful, if you haven't got good drainage and that sort of stuff, you're paddling around in the mud to get it. So we don't. The harvester we've got now, the previous one was four-wheel drive. This one isn't. We do still have the rice tyres, so we put rice tyres on the front of it and put them on backwards, so you can generally you can walk out backwards if it's not too dire. But we're back to just for. We've got a 12 metre front that we harvest wheat and barley and everything else with. We're back to a 20-foot front, whatever that is, 6 metre front. For rice. So, and that's purely because the material is just, it's as green as your lawn if you've got a green lawn. You wouldn't dare bale the stuff coming out of the back of the machine. It's horrendous. So. She's slowly, and beauty of these newer headers, you've got you can reverse the rotor by sort of not getting out of the cabin, whereas the old headers with the old 7088, and we had a 2188 prior to that with the rotor belt, that we didn't block it. I think we might have blocked each machine once, but it's not a lot of fun, I could tell you.
How far you got to freight your rice? Like how much? How far is it?
It's got to go to Deniliquin this year. Usually it's Finley, which is about 50 kilometres. But because there's not a lot of rice being grown this year, they're not going to open Finley to receival. So it's got to go to Deniliquin. So we're about an hour and 15 to Deniliquin from here. So I was actually just talking to our freight carrier this evening, and whether we run a couple of trucks or we'll just see when it gets a bit closer and see what the weather's doing. So.
Yep. Well, we better go back and find out what your first experience in agriculture was. Well, you've probably been on the family farm all the time, so.
Yeah, I don't know how far you want to go. How far you want to go back, mate? Do you want to go?
It doesn't matter. What you first did on the farm then?
I was probably one of those kids that was always going to be a farmer. Like, when you're high school and, I look at my two girls now and what do you want to do? And they've got a bit of an idea and that, but, from a young age, I was always going to go farming. So probably harvesting rice is probably one of my earliest memories. And look, my father was he was pretty progressive, but always, always gave us a go. Like, I can remember, harvest. We had a property west of here. I don't know how old I would have been. It was back in the 80s, so I would have only been, I don't know, 10, something like that. And we had prior to going to auto headers, we had obviously tow behind headers. So we had a 580-5 Massey and then a Horde Bagshaw, whatever the numbers were on it. But, I can remember driving the 585 header at this place. And Dad, we had a little, I think an AA16 Inter truck, like a 7 or 8 ton truck, and Dad carting grain to the receival. And I can't remember what we're harvesting, but drawing this Massey header. So I've operated machinery, from 5, 6, 7 year olds. So yeah, it doesn't. You put me in something now that I'm foreign to, generally half an hour, I've got my head around it. So, but yeah, that's probably one of the early ones. Yeah, I remember we had when my father was growing rice, we had a neighbour that would come down and harvest it for us. Had a little auto header, and I can remember being in there with him and that sort of thing. So that's probably why I enjoy summer crop, because it grows so quickly. Like, it's a very feel good, going sideways for a minute. You look at the moment, we're bloody dry here, but you've got this green oasis in the middle of the farm. And, I've got a neighbour that's got some corn in, and just down the road, and it's the same. It's 10 foot tall and just green, and everything around it's, brown and that. So it is, the summer crop job is a very feel good stuff. But yeah, they're probably some of the early ones, or even, working in, we always used to get a day off or a couple of days off for shearing. We were probably more a bloody hindrance than help. And Henty machinery field days, we always got a day off to go to Henty, like it was nearly bigger than Christmas. So so there's some good early memories of farming. Yeah.
So did you go straight back on the farm when you left school?
No, I didn't, mate. So I left at year 10 and did a trade. So I'm a welder by trade, probably a better welder than what I am farm. So my father will probably tell you that. So at the time, it was a pretty tough gig at the time. It was a general engineering workshop, and we did everything. It was back when the dairy industry was really, really humming around the Cobram area. Back in the Murray Goulburn days, and the orchards were really cranking. It's sort of big Italian community in Cobram, so a lot of stone fruit and that sort of stuff. So it was. When I look back on it now, I was really fortunate, because we did such a wide range of stuff. You'd get something that farmer would bring, and it was back in the days where you fix stuff. So like something would come in and it'd be destroyed, and you wouldn't throw it away, you'd fix it. So I was fortunate that, and it was a really old workshop. Like, it was, 50 degrees in summer and -5 in winter. Like, it was pretty tough going, and half dirt floor and that sort of thing. So it was, but they had a lot of old equipment and, an old forge and that sort of stuff. So it was we're given such a broad range of work, and, I can oxy weld, I can arc weld, I can MIG weld, I can TIG weld, I can weld cast iron, aluminium, stainless steel. Like, I've been fortunate that I've sort of had experience at sort of most things. I probably obviously, as technology's moved, or probably still a bit old school with that sort of thing. So anyway, getting back to your question. That was 96. I left school in 95, into year 10. Finished at the end of 99. I had a bad accident. Was welding a fuel tank, aluminium fuel tank, of a truck, and it went up on me about 3 weeks before Christmas, the end of 1999. So I was quite badly burnt, and there's a few people comment on the YouTube channel back in the early days. My face is always quite red, and I look like I'm sunburned all the time, but it's just the burns that I got on my face. So my face was probably the best of it, but yeah, like, I've got quite a lot of skin grafts on my legs, my hands and that sort of stuff. So I was pretty fortunate, but that sort of took me 12 months to get over that, really. But I sort of finished up. I'd actually given notice before that accident happened, and so I sort of finished my time there, and ended up back on the farm. Just trying to find my feet again. Was sort of doing a bit of contract welding and fluffing around, as well as working on the farm. At that stage, Dad was still active on the farm. About 2002, I suppose it was. Might have been 2001. Dad had a bit of heart trouble, had a heart attack, so that sort of flattened him for a while. And then, I sort of kept doing a bit of welding and that sort of stuff, and probably when the Millennium Drought came around, and we'll go back in a minute, but I actually went back welding full time, went contracting in at it's Saputo now, but it was Murray Goulburn at the time. So worked in there as a contractor, doing pipe welding, a lot of aluminium pipe welding and steam pipe and that was really good because I'd never really done that sort of stuff. But it sort of, and we did a few other factory shutdowns around the place as well at the time. So there wasn't, you could work off farm and sort of, it was an extra $100,000 worth of income basically to work off farm. But it's a double-edged sword that because you're working 7 days a week when you're not working in town. You're on the farm trying to catch up. And I was lucky. Mum and Dad had moved to town by then, but Dad was still active enough. He was coming. We still had sheep running. We were running sheep then as well. So he'd come out and check sheep and do all that sort of stuff for me. But we missed out on a football premiership, through those years because I stopped playing footy because we just, we had to work. So you look back on it now and think you're an idiot, but anyway, that's what you do at the time. So, sort of going back a step, like I'm pretty fortunate and I don't know whether you were going to touch on it or not, but I'll lead into it with family succession. So I was very fortunate. Dad had sort of come good and that sort of thing, but he was quite active off the farm. Like he was on local government, I think for 22 years, and he was local show mayor for 10 of that. He's life member of the local footy club, local cricket club. He did a stint on, the league. He was president of the sort of local, it's Murray League. So he was very active off farm, and also a lot of through the late 80s, we had when it was back when it was raining lots, we had a lot of trouble with water table rising and that sort of thing. So he was sort of one of the drivers to get some subsurface drainage put in, to drain all this country through here. Where we are, we're actually in a valley. To an extent, we've sort of got a hill range around the northern part of us, and then the river on the south side. So Murray River on the south side. They pushed pretty hard, and they actually ended up putting in a subsurface drain that drains would drain 10,000 acres probably, might be more, back into the Murray River. So Dad was pretty active off farm. So sort of early 2003, he basically said, look, what are you going to do? You want to go farming? And I said, oh, well, that was always, I was always going to do that. He sort of said, well, look, if you don't want to go farming, I'm quite happy to sell the place. Like he said, I've got no, he wasn't tied to it by any stretch of the imagination. So our family succession started in, 2003. So, I was only 23 at the time, so basically we bought one of the blocks here and built Mum and Dad a house in town, and they moved to town, and I took over financial control of the show. So so like Dad, I was very, very fortunate that my parents were progressive. They also had a business off farm. Mum had a business in Cobram, which was quite successful, so that sort of helped with the succession. But and Dad's theory was like he basically split everything 4 ways, so that all 4 siblings got the equal amount. So that's sort of how it's worked. It took till 2019 till it was finalised. So although like the initial step of us buying the farm and then moving into the farming job full time, and us paying me holding the checkbook, it really wasn't till 16 years later that it was all finalised, and that was basically we ended up with the home farm where we live here. So I live where Sarah and I live where I grew up. So there's 640 acres on this place, and then so there was permanent water, so we had to buy permanent water and that sort of stuff just to square it up for the sisters. So like it's you hear succession seems to be a dirty word in agriculture. Hopefully it's starting to get better. But one thing I think helped in our situation was my father had interests off farm. Like he was going to meetings, he was, that sort of stuff. He wasn't just, although he's a mad keen bowler now, but, at the time he wasn't playing bowls, but he was away doing stuff, getting off the farm. And I half wonder farmers that are having succession issues, whether it's the old man and mum don't, they don't have much to do off the farm. So been bloody lucky in that respect. It was pretty smooth sailing, and you sort of at the time and I went into it really green. As I said, I can operate a lot of machinery, but I sort of got a real reality check when you come to doing bookwork. Most farmers probably hate bookwork.
Yep.
I've grown to enjoy it. Like the last 10 years, probably I've really got my teeth into it. And every Monday morning I sit down and there might not be a lot of transactions, but you're on MyOb and just tick those 10 or a dozen transactions off. And budgets, we're using program to do budgets and that sort of stuff. So like that's if you'll probably ask me this at the end, but if I can give any young people any advice, it's learn how to be a business person before any mug can drive a tractor. It's learn how to the back end stuff's more important at times.
Yep, absolutely agree. You've got to.
So we probably got a bit off track there, but anyway.
No, it's right. But I absolutely agree. I see too many young fellas at the moment. They go into the farming business and they just chuck all their invoices at their parents all the time. Oh, well, their mother mainly. And their mother says, what's this for? What's this for? What's this for? And they've got no idea. So
yeah,
I think that's the best bit of advice for young people. They've got to go and keep an eye on what's going on. Go and learn how to do the bookkeeping part of the business, because it's no use just spending the money. You don't know how you're positioning with it.
And whether it's go to Marcus or, there's probably plenty of, like Marcus Oldham, there's probably plenty of business courses, or go to uni, do ag business at uni. So I was probably, I was always sort of going back a bit. Once I finished my trade, I was going to travel, or was wanting to travel. Like I always talked about going to the mines and that sort of stuff. And a lot of my schoolmates, they all went overseas after uni and that sort of stuff. So, but it just, with Dad getting a bit crook, it probably, it accelerated me being here full time a bit. So I've sort of missed that opportunity a little bit. Although Sarah and I and the kids are travelling a lot. We've travelled a lot in the last 5 to 10 years, I suppose. So, but that overseas travel, or it's. I'm sort of probably doing it a bit later now, but it is what it is. It would have been. I had a cousin and a few guys that went over and did the harvest in the US, and that, like, that would have been amazing to do if you had the opportunity. But it just is what it is. So
yep. So you're basically talking about balancing your farm work with your personal life. You've got a fair few community things you do, as well as sporting groups. So how do you handle it all?
I suck at it, David. I really suck at it. If I'm brutally honest. So for the listeners, I'm president of the local RFS, Rural Fire Service, so that's just a given. That's more just turn up and they give you a job type thing. But I've basically been in that since I was back home on the farm. So we've got two trucks here. Our trucks are kept on farm rather than in a shed. So we've got two basically next door. So if the phone rings at any hour of the day, where we drop tools, and it doesn't matter what's harvest or sowing, or you're in bed or whatever. So that's one thing. I'm treasurer of the local football club, so Baruga Football Netball Club. So that consumes more time than last year consumed a hell of a lot of time, which I was probably not much, not just on Saturdays. Saturdays are fine because the kids are playing netball, and Sarah coaches one of the kids' grades in netball, and you're there, all hands on deck. But the probably the off-field stuff that people don't see, the bookwork and that sort of stuff, it consumes quite a lot of time. So it's sort of. And then time for myself, well, that's sort of gone by the wayside a little bit of late. I'm trying to remedy that. We've got a few things in the pipeline. We we are trying to downsize. I won't give you the exclusive. I'll
No,
leave that for the YouTube channel. But
I'll leave that for the
um,
YouTube. Yes.
yeah, no, we are downsizing, so and backing off a bit. We've got 2 full-time staff on, 2 really good staff. Yeah, like an older guy that Tony, he's, I don't know what he is, mid-50s, and he's managed properties and that sort of stuff. So he's I can sort of don't have to tell him what to do. He just heads off and does his own thing most of the time. And then we stumbled upon a young lady actually back at the start of October, I think, from memory, September, and she'd put an ad up on. We were looking for someone else, and she by chance put an ad up on Facebook, one of the local pages that Sarah spotted, and we know her parents. She's off a farm, but was sort of battling to get a bit of a go. So we put her on, and she's been amazing. She's been a real injection of enthusiasm, and I don't think I've met a kid, and I'll call her a kid because I sort of treat her like a daughter a bit, because she gets plenty of life advice. To pick stuff up so quickly, it's just blows me away. I've had her in. She's, well, apart from the air seeder because she hasn't been here during sowing, but she did windrowing. We had her in the header. We've had her in the tractor and laser bucket, and everything else in between. Like, it's nuts how quickly she's picking stuff up. And in the past, like we have trained some young guys up, and it's sort of, when you see them, something I get a bit of a kick out of. Like we had one guy here that did an apprenticeship, and he's gone on to a lot greater things. And we actually pushed him to leave, because I just said to him one day in the ute, I said, mate, you need to go beyond us. I said, you're too smart to be a farmhand. Like, not knocking the farmhands, but this kid now adult was a bit of a brainiac, bit of a nerd, and he moved on to much greater things. And then we had another guy did a school-based apprenticeship with us for a couple of years, and he's working on properties and floating around. So so we'll do the same with Lily, the young lady. We'll try and train her up, and I sort of have said to her already. I said, look, I realise you're not going to be here forever, and I don't expect you to be. But if we can give you the ability to get a job somewhere better, or you can, if you've got on your resume that you can operate all this gear, you've done sheep work, etc., and she's good with the gear and that sort of thing, well, it's going to help her going forward. So I'm pretty keen to, when she turned up, and she's full of cheek, like she's, asking plenty of questions, asking the right questions, and, we're sort of gets along really well with Tony. We're sort of all having a dig at each other at some time during the day. So, but if something's wrong, she's not sure about, she's on the phone, we're on the two-way, and she's a bit of a diamond in the rough, actually. Yeah, because we have had a couple that haven't worked out that well, both older and younger. And that's another issue with agriculture is finding good staff. So,
Yep.
With what's happening going forward, it's going, whether we can justify 2 staff, I'm going to do my damnedest to keep her on. And it's not going to change if it means I can have a day off during the week. That's what's going to happen, and it needs to happen, really, if I'm brutally honest with you, David. So,
Yep.
Yep.
So we'd better mention something that you're going to do this year. You're going to compete in.
I was waiting for the question at the end.
What's that? No, you're not getting it.
You asked all these other blokes.
Yeah, I know. No, you're going to do the Fink Desert Race this year, so that's going to be a big challenge as well.
Sorry, just a mouthful of water.
No, you're right.
Yeah, so we did it in 22. I was supposed to do it in 21, but COVID put the skids on that. We were all set, ready to go, and 2 days beforehand they closed the borders on us, so that was a bit of a pain in the backside. But in looking back, we probably weren't ready, organised enough to do it anyway. So it was probably a bit of a blessing in disguise. So yeah, 22, we went up as a family and had a big group of mates come up and help. Logistics is a massive part of it. Yeah, you do need help. So I sort of got it in my head again. I'm 46 in a week, so I thought can't just do it once. I need to do it twice before I might do it again. You wouldn't know. I'll get sillier the older I get, probably. So yeah, decided to do it again. This time it's going to be Sarah and the kids aren't coming. It's just going to be a boys' trip, effectively. So there was a group of guys that have done it multiple times, and I sort of met in 22, met up with them. There's a few of them doing it then. So I'm sort of jumping on the back of them. So I think there's 16. Oh, no, not 16. There's 11 guys riding it this year. So in that group, including myself. So there's a fair crew going up. So yeah, basically I've got a performance coach that I had back in 22 that I've sort of continued to use. So basically it's just an app on your phone, and you get a lot of it's reasonably repetitive, but you get a training session every day. So I'll try and do 4 to 5 sessions a week in the gym, and then try and get bike time, once it cools down a little bit. Last time I did a couple of races. Mind you, I hadn't raced a motorbike at all. I started racing when I was 42, so I'm not as smart as what I make out to be. So you're never going to learn any younger, David, as I say. So anyway,
midlife crisis, don't they call it, or something?
Something like that. Yeah. So anyway, we'll try and do a couple of races again beforehand. So Condo 750 is one I've always wanted to have a crack at. It's a bit of a different format again. So it's the end of March, so I haven't committed to it yet, but I reckon we'll probably line it up. And then, we'll try and squeeze another one or two in before June long weekend. So it'll be a couple of weeks away. Sort of get up there in hightail it in a couple of days to get up there and do a bit of what they call pre-running. So ride the track for 2 or 3 days beforehand and a couple of days rest and then get into it. So it's a good look. If you don't have to be a motorhead or a bloody car nut or whatever, but it's a really, really good weekend. Like, I said it on the other day, but Alice Springs is an amazing part of the world. It's got its social issues, we all know that, but I love it out there. And we've been out there a few times to the race now, and been fortunate. We gave a mate a hand in 2019. I think we flew out and gave a mate a hand that was racing it, and they beat a lot of rain, and we actually camped out about in the mid-track and refueled him. We're out about 160 k's from Alice Springs, and with the rain, there's a lot of greenery across the desert. It was beautiful. It was just magic. So you're generally still getting red dust out of stuff 6 months later after you go out there. That's about the only downfall. But it's a really, really good weekend. A lot of families and that sort of stuff. Good vibe. It is a good community, that desert racing enduro community, both cars and the buggies. So if I highly recommend people go out to it. If they're thinking about it. This year's the 50th year, so they've actually usually they cap the bikes at 650, and I don't know what the cars generally are, couple of hundred. This year they've got 750 bikes in. Now, usually the year I did it, there was I think 540 bikes. And out of that 540, I think there was about 40 that were medivacked. So there's going to be a little bit on when you add another couple hundred bikes. So at the moment, the field's full. Being the 50th year, the field's full with 140 on the waiting list.
Oh dear.
So let's hope for some rain and settle the dust. So
and plenty of safety gear.
Yeah, plenty of safety gear. Yeah. So I'll be prepared as well as I can. But
Yep. So we better go. I suppose we better go back to you've been on YouTube for what, 3 years? Bit over 3 years now.
yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was your decision to start the YouTube channel?
Oh, I got sick of morons on social media, probably. If I'm brutally honest. No, look, we've got Riverine Plains down here, which is a cropping grower group. So the equivalent of, I suppose, up near you get Central West Farming Systems. Are they near you or?
There's Farm Link, there's Central West Farming,
Yeah, Farm Link. Yep.
Grain Arana Alliance. So yeah,
Yep.
actually, our area is a little bit. The Cowra district is a little bit short. Farmlink just don't come far enough, and Grain Arana are coming down that way a bit. So it's an interesting time to see what's going to happen.
Yeah. So Riverine Plains is the equivalent of them, of those groups, and Birchip Cropping Group and that here based in Mulwala. So I did 12 years on the committee / board of that. Was chair for a couple of years, and just time. Probably, and I was probably getting a little bit bitter with the job. I was sort of a bit grumpy on the GRDC at the time and a few of the decisions they were making. So I was better off probably getting off at the time. But I still wanted some way, and it was probably 2 or 3 or 4 years when I was got off the committee or off the board. But I sort of wanted to keep my toe in the water a little bit in the adversary side of things. Like, I still wanted to be able to advocate for ag somehow. And, you can spend a lot of time going to meetings and banging your head against the wall. And, I've been to Canberra, I've done that sort of stuff. And I just wasn't up for that. And, young family and that sort of thing. And the kids are getting busier and, football club and that's local stuff was probably calling more so. So I sort of hummed and hawed a little bit about it. I used to be quite active on Twitter before it turned into a bin fire.
More political than ever. It's just absolutely garbage now.
It's just terrible, yeah. And look, a caveat on that, I've made some amazing friends from Twitter. Like a lot of my close mates now are guys that I've met through Twitter. So anyway, back to the YouTube. So I don't know, I got sick of arguing with clowns on the internet and that sort of stuff, and it's probably not in my nature, that sort of thing anyway. So I got talking to a guy I met through Twitter, Andrew Uphill, who's at Moree, and he's quite active on TikTok and that sort of stuff. And I think I ran it past him, and he said, "Oh, have a crack at it." He said it'd be great. But the other one, before I go to that, when I trained for Fink in 22, once a week I'd have to do an hour on the spin bike. So hour's a long time on the spin bike when you're listening to music and not actually moving anywhere, as opposed to a normal push bike. So I had built a little gym room and that. My wife's a personal trainer, so we've got a weights room and that here. So we had a telly out there. So I started watching a bit of YouTube and just found there was no Australian content. Like I could, Millennial Farmer and the Larson Brothers and Brian's farming videos and plenty of American stuff, but we were very, very light on for Australian content. And that sort of probably got the cogs turning a bit. And then I thought, well, I'd really like to have my say as well. So I decided, well, I'll give it a shot and see how we go. And it's been a slow burn, don't get me wrong, but it's been enjoyable. Like that's the bottom line. I enjoy doing it. Like if I didn't enjoy doing it, I would have stopped. So, and it's amazing the people that are watching it. You don't realise the sort of audience you're covering, and I'm running. Whether it's a good thing or a bad thing or not, but I'm going places now, and people are noticing me. I'm just like, I don't know, that wasn't what I signed up for. Like, and an example, we were in the Sunshine Coast for a week's holiday 2 weeks ago, and we were out having a swim, and I just got tipped ass over head by a wave because I'm not a, we go to the ocean once a year.
Yeah.
Got up and, gut full of salt water, and this young bloke comes up and he goes, "You're not Farmer JB, are you?" And he spotted me in the surf, and I'm, "Give me a minute, mate, and another wave's coming." And yeah, so anyway, he introduced himself, and then he had his 2 or 3 brothers and sisters, and this kid would have only been 10, I suppose.
Yeah.
And yeah, his 2 brother and sisters, a couple of brothers and sisters hanging around the back, and yeah, and he was from Chinchilla, of a cattle station at Chinchilla, and there's more and more of that going on. I got fuel at a servo one day and paid for it, and next thing, this head pops out of the office, and there's a lady, and she goes, "Oh, you're not from Yarrawonga, are you?" I'm just like, "Yeah, I've got no idea who you are." And she goes, "You're on our telly a hell of a lot." And I'm just like, "Oh, you're joking, aren't you?" so it's, it is growing. There's plenty of people watching it, and you don't get too many nut jobs. I've got a few early on the comments, and quite often, if you return fire with facts, people just go to water. That's what I found anyway. But people, there's people in Canada, there's plenty of people all over the country watching it, and we're getting that. I'm not too sure how you crack the algorithm to get, overseas more, but it is slowly growing, and I enjoy doing it. That's sort of why I continue to do it, and slowly getting better. Like, I was getting ridden pretty hard there in the early days because the audio was terrible. And since I've got it here. We tried to run it there before, like a wireless microphone. Well, I sort of balked at doing it because I thought this is going to become onerous. It's going to be a pain in the backside, but it's, you press the button, the light flashes, the green light comes up on the camera, and away you go. And the audio is 100%. And like the last video I uploaded last night, we had an irrigation stop in the rice blowout. Well, I just sat the camera there on a post and hopped in the telehandler, and I had the microphone, and I just was talking, waffling away at what I was doing while the camera was, filming what I was doing. So it's been a bit of a game changer. Talk to other guys, talk a bit to Andy Nixon, Matt Jackson, like Jackson Brothers. He's been, actually need to catch up with Matt again. But he went to the DJI camera, and I sort of watched his stuff a bit and noticed his audio was really good. So thought, we've got to try this. And, camera quality is like the GoPros are a good camera, but they just, I don't know, we just seem to have technical issues with them crashing and that sort of stuff. This DJI camera's been fantastic, and then adding the microphone to it, it's been a game changer. So it's, the quality, I think, is pretty good. The editing side of it depends how long it takes you. When you string everything together, that was a bit of a learning curve. When I first did it, you'd have videos here, there, and everywhere, and then trying to learn how to use the editing program, and it was a bit of a rock show to start with. But now, if you sort of film them in sequence, you can just load them into the program in that order, trim a bit off each end, add a few beeps if you swear, but I try and keep it. I'm quite aware there's kids watching, so things have really got to go south for me to swear. So, and don't get me wrong, I can swear with the best of them. So it's probably been good for me because it's tidied my language up a little bit. But yeah, you can, 3/4 of an hour, you can have a video edited and uploaded. Starlink, next step, Starlink's been a game changer as far as uploading videos.
Yep.
We were burning through data something savagely to start with, and you'd get to the 15th of the month and you'd be out of data, and the internet speed would just go down the toilet, and you'd be getting a hard time from the wife because nothing will load, and the kids were going crook because they couldn't watch anything, stream anything. So Starlink's been a big one. But so yeah, that's the nuts and bolts of it. And I just, there's a lot of different styles, but I like explaining stuff to people or what we're actually doing. And I find people, the rice is a prime example. I really try and, show people how we do it and what we do. And, especially with it, it's, it gets a bad rap as it's, wrecking the environment, but it's the environment it creates too. We've got a family of Brolgas here that have been here all summer, and they don't come if we don't have rice in.
Right.
You know, they'll turn up at the start of the season, like start of October, and they'll mooch around for a couple of weeks, and then if there's no rice in, they go, and I don't know where they go, but they don't come back. But there's 7 here at the moment, you know, and that sort of stuff. So we're just like explaining what we're doing. The workshop thing, we're quite active in the workshop, so people love that sort of thing. You know, they're some of the better viewed videos. So I'm trying to get, sort of probably from my own point of view, probably haven't had the time to get in the workshop as much and build stuff. Like we've built a lot of machinery ourselves, air seeder cart and chaser bin, and you know, we'd have a crack at building anything really. So I sort of want to try and get back in the workshop a bit more as my time frees up, hopefully. But yeah, everyone likes something getting destroyed, you know, or a balls up, or you know, and we've had some. I could write the complete idiot guide to farming here if you wanted to. You know, like we've done most things, but I'll have a crack at fixing anything. You know, like we've had engines out of tractors, we've had, you know, injector pumps off headers. And we've sort of been pushed that little. We won't get too sidetracked on that, but we've been pushed that way a little bit with the cost of repairing, like getting a mechanic out or something like that. So you know, I'm more than happy to have a crack at fixing something. So people like that sort of that thing. So I know I watch YouTube. There's a couple of American mechanics that are, you know, John Deere mechanics, and you know, you quite enjoy watching those guys. So. Yeah, it's sort of, people like it. It is probably rough enough for, probably not rough raw. And I've sort of said that to a few people. Oh, it's a bit, you know, it's non-scripted, obviously. And people say, oh, we love that. That's what we like about it, because it is what you're doing, you know. You get, like the other day, I blew the tractor and laser bucket off, and I was brown with dust, and I was pretty red in the face, and you know, sweat pouring out of me, and it's like, well, I'm not going to clean myself up. This is what it is, you know. So just, you probably want to give those people that, and whether that's the audience that are watching it, I know I've got a lot of neighbours, and you know, people make funny comments, you know, neighbours and around the footy club and that sort of stuff. So there's a lot of locals watching it as well, and yeah, they don't have to look over the fence anymore. They can just sit on the couch and watch it. So, yeah.
So you've mentioned stuff ups. I suppose we did see one on YouTube where you had a boom spray on its side at one stage. We'd broken it. Did you lose the wheels or something?
Yeah. That was. I wasn't
that's a
even
couple of
in
years
a
ago.
rush. That's the most disappointing thing.
Mm.
We was the last time we had, well, 2024, I suppose. I was going down to spray and put the knockdown on the rice ground, and just come around a corner, and I don't know what I was thinking. It wasn't going quick, wasn't in a rush, and the inside tyre had about 4,000 litres chemical on board, and the inside tyre of the boom spray just caught the rice bank, and it was just like slow motion. It just laid over. It had just had enough, and so that was that did a. Well, it was a good thing you got insurance, because that was about 30,000 in insurance. There's a bit of a scatter on running around getting shuttles trying to pump chemical out and that sort of thing. So we had a pivot irrigator walk into some trees. That was it. That was interesting. Had to go to a fire. The trees are no longer now, so we can talk about it. We had a row of trees. We put another. We've got 2 pivot irrigators here, and we put another one up in 2019, and we'll put one up in 2016 and one up in 2019. And one had a row of trees that we'd planted, and 30 years ago, and good shade and that sort of stuff. So the irrigator didn't quite do a full circle. So a lot of guys, a lot of clever blokes, will have a mechanical stop there. So when the irrigator comes to its finishing point, that's as far as it can go. And either way, well, we'd never got round to doing that. And we used to just rely on the GPS, and it's got an app on there. GPS controlled, and you've got an app on your phone to control it and that sort of stuff, and it had never missed a beat. So anyway, the phone service was dodgy or whatever, but I had to go to a fire. That's what it was. So went to a fire, I had the irrigator going, and I'm just like, I need to turn this thing off before, I can't remember why I needed to turn it off. And anyway, in my fumbling around in the fire truck while heading to the fire, I've turned the auto stop off and also shut the irrigator down, but turned the auto stop off, not realising that I'd done it. And anyway, a couple of months later, whatever, Sunday afternoon, and we had Ross, had loosened under that irrigator at the time. Sarah's brother and his wife and kids were here, and we're having a swim and we're having a beer on the back deck and that sort of stuff. And anyway, you can see the irrigator from home, but you couldn't see the end of it. And anyway, watching it, it stopped. I'm like, oh, I jokingly said it's either stopped or it's walked into the trees. So anyway, I had to go down and just pull a door at the Rice to do something, and sure enough, we got down there and it had walked into the trees and tipped over the end span. So $55,000 insurance claim, David, and we're back going again. So
at least you're having joy from insurance companies.
Oh well, I suppose that's why you have insurance, isn't it? You know, so yeah, they're a couple. Look, it's not always like that, but you know, they're a couple of the better ones we've had. And now you know, what's the catch my drift, boys? It's a problem shared's a problem halved, or something like that. So,
or whose fault is it anyway? Yep, that's what they use.
Whose fault is it anyway? Yeah. Well, I've had to take the blame. I couldn't even blame an employee. It was my own stupid fault both times.
So we're getting towards the end of it, but what do you reckon the biggest innovation in agriculture has been in your time?
Probably press wheels. We were one of the earlier ones here to go to press wheels, and that was the difference, you know, in that millennium drought, the difference between us harvesting grain and cutting hay. Yeah, like I can still remember we had a 511 into combine, and I hadn't told Dad I was going to do it, and you know, we're on 7-inch spacing like everyone else. And I'd sort of been, you know, round about and field days and that sort of stuff. So I took to it and, you know, pulled every third tine out, went out to, you know, 9 or 10-inch spacings, whatever it was at the time, blanked a few rows off and bolted a set of press wheels on the back of it. And, so we were the only sort of one in the neighbourhood at the time that had press wheels, and it didn't take long, the neighbours followed, which was, so probably in my time, obviously GPS has been a game changer, but one of the early ones is probably direct drilling. Like Dad was direct drilling. We had knife points, you know, you'd just burn and sow. But yeah, we sort of went to that next step of press wheels, and you know the results were instant basically.
Yep. So another thing we'll do is we'll chuck the crystal ball out there. And where do you think the prices of like wheat, canola, lambs are heading this year?
I think the lamb job will stay. Just is purely a supply and demand thing. I can't see it coming off anytime soon. The biggest, and I don't know, like I was always of the theory that if it's too dear, you know, nothing kills high prices like high prices. Now, whether that's, you know, that could be a load of rubbish too, because it's been, you know, $10, $11, $12 for the last 6 months. So, you know, $10 a kilo for lambs, pretty good money.
Yep.
You know, as far as, you know, the grain job, we're too hooked to what's going on overseas a bit. You know, like we're really in the hands of the gods with those ones. Canola needs to be above, you know, needs to be 700 plus, I think.
Yep.
Locally. You know, wheat's really got to have a 3 in it too if we're fair income. You know, we're quoted today, you know, 1180 on farm for MAP for this cropping. And I don't know what urea, I think it did get a price. It was, high sevens.
High sevens,
So
low eights, yeah.
yeah, yep, 7.95 or something like that on farms. So it really, that's the problem with the job a bit. We've become very reliant on good seasons, because our input, prices are so high. Throw a bit of interest in that, and it can be a pretty nasty situation to be in if you're not careful.
Yep. And probably the last question I'll ask you is, what piece of advice would have helped you when you first started?
Oh, when I first started, I was going to say that's one piece of advice I was given. I was been thinking about this one when I first started. Probably going back to the start, I suppose. Like learn the business side of it before you learn the physical on ground stuff. As I said, you can learn that stuff, but it's very hard to learn on the fly. The numbers side of things. Yeah. I was probably a typical farm kid where I just thought it was, driving tractors, and while early on I had a pretty strong detest for sheep, but I've grown to enjoy sheep now and working sheep, so I've probably mellowed with age a little bit.
I think
but
I think
the bottom line is the sheep are paying the bills. So we're part of a. We use a company with our benchmarking, and we're 5 and 6 years in now, and when the benchmarking saying that the sheep business has outperformed the dryland cropping business 4 out of 5 the last 5 years, you've got to look at that.
Yep.
But I suppose as far as advice, that sort of thing, get good people around you. Have a good accountant. We've been running this accountant for a long time now. Well, the same accounting firm, and we've had the same accountant now for, I don't know how long we've had Bernie, 10, 15 years possibly. And I joke with her, like, she probably rolls her eyes when I ring, and she's probably thinking, what's this bloke on about now? Like, I have no doubt that, and I joke that with her, she nearly needs a white coat on at times when you walk in there, and how can I help you today, sort of thing. So, but yeah, you need good professional advice about around you. The benchmarking side of it, we're still involved with that. I don't know how long into the future. You don't want someone to turn up and tell you something that you already know. Like, if you're paying a professional, there's no point him turning up and giving you information you already know. If you know the budget's not going to balance, or it's going to be tight or something like that, you don't need to be paying someone a truckload of money for them to tell you that. So your outside professional help they need to be bringing something to the table, like, something that's going to make your business better. If the information they're bringing is information you already know, and if you've got a handle on your numbers, and whether you're using Ag World, and cost of production's a big one. Like, it's a bit. I'm not sure a lot of blokes know their true cost of production. I don't know. I might be, drawing a pretty long bow at that one, but I went to a field day this time last year. Actually, it's about to come up again. River and Plains one, and anyway, room full of people, and the facilitator asked, "Well, who does a budget?" And farmers can be, buddy. We can be funny critters when we want to be, like, a day like that where people don't, or don't want to share anything, or can't tell anybody what's going on. They might learn what we're up to. And I knew the facilitator pretty well, and I said, I put my hand up. I said, right, Chris, I'll help you. I said, because the rest of the room aren't going to. I said, we do whenever you for our bank manager, whether the bank manager looks at it or not, but we're always got a budget with the accountant. We've got a program now that's in the cloud where if I adjust it, the accountant can see that and vice versa type thing. It's a good program. We've sort of moved on from Excel spreadsheets where it ends up just a bloody mess because I'll play with it and then she'll play with it and then no one knows what anyone's done. And so we're using a cloud-based program now to do it. But, another guy put his hand up and he said, oh, we just, we do one on the back of the envelope and that's about it. But I suppose the other side of that is your debt level. I suppose if you aren't carrying a lot of debt, well, it's farming's easy if you don't have any debt. That's my opinion anyway. We've always had it, so we're always working our asses off to, keep the head above water. So, learn, get back to your question, learn the business, learn your numbers, know your cost of production, whether it be sheep, cattle, pigs, ducks, whatever. But get good people around you. And if you're not happy with those people, there's plenty of people now, consultants, running around doing that benchmark. It doesn't necessarily have to be benchmarking, but it is a good way to see how you are tracking with similar sized businesses. But it also then gives you over a 5 or 6 period, what your strengths are and you can sort of pivot that way. And we've done that. Like we've sort of backed off last year was a prime example. We just thought, well, our livestock business is so strong, we'll pull out 100 hectares of canola and put pasture in. And the way the season turned out, it probably would have still been okay because it was on some irrigated country. We could have squared it up a bit, but we cut a pair like this. We didn't have a lot of rain, but we had enough rain during the season. We fattened a heap of lambs. We cut a pair of hay. And, we've effectively drought-proofed ourselves for the next couple of years with the hay we've got around us. So you need, by having the numbers, it allows you to pivot. If you're a mixed farm like we are, like it's a bit different if you're straight cropping, and even probably straight livestock to a extent, but you can still, if you're straight livestock, you could still sow something if you want to do some oats or something like that. But a mixed farm, it just allows you to pivot that little bit if you need to.
Yep. And final question, what bit of advice would you give to a newbie to the industry?
One thing my father said to me, and I knew you were going to, I was thinking you were going to ask me this question. He said, and I don't know how it come up in conversation, but he said, you never want to be known as someone that doesn't pay their bills, which has always resonated with me. We've always paid the bills on time. Sometimes the bills get paid twice. You get people ring up and go, well, you've actually paid this one twice. But, and on the flip side of that is if cash flow's tight, get on the phone and speak to people. Like we generally, and I don't mind telling you, if cash flow's tight, we'll make sure the mum and dad businesses, the local businesses that we're dealing with all the time, get paid first. And then your elders or Nutrien or whoever will get on the phone and say, listen, we're going to need 10 days or we're going to need, a couple of weeks. We've got sheep money, we've got money coming in. And the communication is, and in turn, people bend over backwards for you. Like we did a tyre on the laser bucket today and I rang the tyre joint in town and he's like, mate, you don't need to ring me to tell me you're coming. I'm just like, yeah, I'm just want to give you the heads up. And he said, no. He said, you just come in, we'll fix it. So you get that loyalty both ways. If you're paying your bills on time, people generally look after you. But if you're stringing people out, like everyone loves to get paid. So, so that was one my father said to me early on. I don't know why it's just stuck in my head. If I could give it make time for yourself is a big one. It's something that I'm trying to get better at. And I heard it on another podcast, another farming podcast that, the guys said, oh, we're going to, the kids are little, so I'm going to work, we'll work hard the next 10 years and that sort of thing. Your kids are only little once. They'll be adults for, hopefully 50 or 60 years. And that's one thing's probably a bit of regret. There's a bit floating around, but that probably the one main thing is I probably worked too hard when the kids were little, and missed out on that. Don't get me wrong, my daughters think I'm the best dad in the world, and I've got a really good relationship with them, but probably missed that. When they're tearing around as little tackers, raising hell, I probably wasn't here enough. And I have said that to a few mates that have got little kids and that sort of thing. Like, they're probably where I was, 15 years ago. You were going to try and be bigger than Ben-Hur and that sort of thing. And it's like, mate, your kids are only little for a short period of time. Mum and dad become very uncool very quickly once they become teenagers. So, yeah, and that's probably... that can lead into burnout, just the workload. And that's, if I'm brutally honest, that's where I'm at now. And that's probably our next step with our business in, slowing down and downsizing a bit just to take a breath. And, after harvest, we'd had a big hay season, reasonably big windrowing, good harvest, but solid harvest. And, for 6 weeks, we were doing, I was doing, 120, 130 hour weeks, like massive hours, and got to it. And I was just physically and mentally cooked, really cooked. And, I listened to a lot of podcasts, so you sort of probably bouncing off other podcasts a bit, but there was one, and guys, he was a bit the same, and he sort of said, you can burn the candle at both ends for so long, but at some point it's going to meet in the middle. And I sort of got to that point, and pretty helpless feeling, if I'm honest.
Yep.
So yeah, we just thought we need to take hold of this and make a change. So, and it has, it's probably been coming for a while, but we just thought, we farmed for 22 or 3 years. We've always had debt. So, we can clean it. We can get our debt levels back in, hopefully free up some time to go motorbike riding. And, I was with the extra staff, it's sort of, swimming carnivals and that sort of stuff that the kids do. I was sort of being, when we're not busy, but, making an effort to get to more of that sort of stuff. So that's sort of one thing I'd say to the younger guys. Like, it's all good and well to think that you can do these massive hours, and it's probably an old, the older guys are probably, it's drummed in from the older era. Whereas going forward, you don't need to work those hours. Like, it's just, I've been fortunate that I haven't had a bad farm accident. I haven't fallen asleep, and one thing I do very well is I can work. I'll match it with anyone. If the job's got to be done, we'll get in and do it. And it's one thing that probably made my ears prick a little bit were comments I was getting on YouTube. Guys are like, "Do you ever sleep?" Like, and it sort of started to get the mouse turning a little bit in the head and going, well, it's I just take it as common practice. Like, this is, the job's got to be done. We get in and do it, sort of thing. So it sort of has, if I said you had to stand up in front of a group of young people, I'd just say, don't work so hard. Like, leave time for yourself, leave time for your family, because it can all, go at a click of the fingers. It can all be gone. So. And we're only here for so long if we want to get real warm and fuzzy. But it's just, you need to look after yourself and make time for yourself.
Yep. No, thank you very much for your honesty on the subject. Yeah, it's something I think a lot of people have got to have a look at in their farming businesses. Yeah, definitely.
It's a bad stigma that we've got in agriculture. Like, and it's is what it is. And I suppose if we can I probably haven't, and there's a time will come on the channel where I will speak about it when what we're doing happens, hopefully in the next couple of months. But, you know, I sort of thought about knowing coming on here was one thing, you know, if it's one thing I can sort of share to the younger guys, you know, just guys and girls, sorry, you know, like you got to make time for yourself and family, and not, you know, I've got a back that's half bugging. Well, I've had one back operation already, but that's probably more come from my welding days. But you know, lifting stuff too heavy, and you know, you notice now my hands don't work as well as what they used to, and eyesight's getting a bit fuzzy, and you know, like it's you just need to look at it. Yeah. I'm booked in a couple of weeks' time for an eye appointment. But yeah, it's just, you know, that's probably what it is. I sort of struggled with the word, trying to work out what, you know, the terminology, but it's the stigma of agriculture that you've just got to work your ass off. Well, you do, but you need to pick your battles a bit too, and think longer term. And if I had my time again, like that's probably one of my biggest regrets. If I had my time again, you know, there was a bit of a, you know, probably get big or get out mentality, sort of back in the day, and that's bullshit. Like it is complete and utter bullshit. Like it, you know, yes, you have economy of scale to a point, but you know, I look at, and not throwing, everyone can do what they want, but you look at some big operations that are reliant on staff or reliant on backpackers, and you go, what's driving is to do what you're doing. You know, like we can, you know, we're at the scale that we've got, and we're not big farmers by any stretch. I sort of joke now that we're only hobby farmers, but yeah, like we can make decent time for ourselves if we need to, but you know, so yeah, we just sort of sat down, and Sarah and I sat down, and we sort of looked at the bigger picture. Like if the kids are want to go farming, it's still going to be 10 or 15 years time. So doing what we're going to do, it just allows me to step back a bit. We've got 2 really good staff, so if I could do 3 days a week, 4 days a week, and you know, you're too busy working within the business to, you know, sort of manage it, you know, spend that extra time in the office. Be too busy in the day-to-day hands-on running of it. We've got good staff now. We can sort of, you know, take that helicopter view a little bit. And the plan is, you know, we're going to scale back, but we will intensify our acres on a smaller scale, and hopefully do things a bit easier. So
that's very good, John. I think we might just pull up there. You said you could talk.
Where are we up to? Hour and a half. Yeah, I don't mind a chat, Dave.
No, we know that. So we'll get on to the quick fire quiz. We'll see how long we go here.
Right. Okay.
So obviously we know your nickname, JB. Or have you got any others?
Yeah. Oh, Brucey, get that a bit?
Yep. So what was the first vehicle you drove?
A sky blue. I can still remember the colour. A little 2-wheel drive Datsun Ute. I don't know what the 3-speed column shift.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, back not like a 180B or something like that. It would have been about a 1980 model or 78 model or something like that.
Yep. So what was the first vehicle you actually owned?
An XF Falcon Ute.
Right. V8?
No. Six cylinder. No.
Yeah. So we've had our little discussion. You're a motorbike lover, so what's your favourite motorbike?
Oh, I'm a KTM lover, David. Yeah. So yeah, I'm on my second one now. So yeah. No, and you never sell them.
You accumulate.
Question, what do you need two? What do you need 2 for? You can't ride 2, but you never sell
them. Yeah. So, what's your favourite crop to grow?
Probably rice. Close second to corn and canola, I think. Yeah.
So what's your opinion on livestock? Sheep, cattle?
Wish I had the area to have more.
Oh, that's different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'd quite like, we had cows during the drought, the Millennium Drought, and they just, once they got hungry, they started to destroy the place, so the cattle had to go. But yeah, I'll never say never again. I'll never say we won't ever have cattle here again. I'd like to have some cattle again, but yeah, big sheep, man, yeah.
So are you a half glass full or half glass empty person?
Oh, we're half full.
Yeah.
Most of the time.
Always an optimist.
Yeah.
So what hobbies have you got?
Not enough, probably. I suppose the YouTube's a hobby. Yeah, we've got to put that down. So that's that. And then obviously the motorbikes, and then just community work, footy club, that sort of stuff. Footy club, it consumes a fair bit of time, but yeah, I'm not a golfer as such. I probably need a couple extra hobbies, I think.
Yep.
So I wouldn't mind actually doing an old car up or something like that, but yeah, we're probably a bit off that yet.
So what's your favourite sporting team?
Probably the Australian Test cricket team, I think. Yeah, I enjoy,
The current one or a previous one?
Oh, come on. Probably the current one's all right, yeah. Travis Head, I reckon, has injected a fair bit of life into the current one.
Yeah.
A week or 10 days into harvest, first test at the Wacker, on the radio, in the header. My life doesn't get any better, does it? We're always hanging out for that first test at harvest time. The way. Yeah. Look, I don't. Cricket's probably Test cricket's a good one. Don't watch a lot of Big Bash or anything like that. Essendon's my AFL footy side.
Yep.
Not that they're any bloody good, and not that I understand the game all that well, but I don't. Union, like the Wallabies, I sort of watch the Wallabies when they're on telly, but not that I know the rules all that well.
I don't know if all of us know the rules very well.
No, yeah.
Yeah. So where's your favourite holiday location?
In Australia, probably Mooloolaba. Overseas, not that we've ventured too far, but New Zealand. We've been in New Zealand quite a few times, and it's magnificent. It's yeah. I don't know why the Kiwis keep moving over here, because it's
Yeah, they seem to come over here more than we go over there. So
yeah.
So what's your favourite podcast? And it's not this one.
No, I can give you a list as long as my arm. The Catch My Drift Boys obviously doing a pretty good job, or a really good job. As far as farming ones, so there's those guys. Farm for Profit in the States. Barn Talk's another good one. There's a half a dozen there in the States that I sort of listen to. I've sort of probably listening to them to get my head around a bit more what's going on in the States and understand over there a bit more. I haven't actually been to the States. It's on the bucket list. Sporting ones. There's a few motorbike ones. Gypsy Tales. Dirt Bike Burrito is another one. I should have a look here. And then there's a few comedy ones. A couple of them are a bit rogue, but we've got the Alpha Blokes podcast. You've got to be careful that the kids aren't in the car when you listen to that one. The Two Flogs, it's quite a good one actually. Quite two blokes similar to my age that are quite funny. Head Shepherd's another one, and then something a bit left field is Dan Snow's History Hit. I don't actually mind listening to a bit of history. But there's The Profitable Farmer. It's quite Rusty's Garage. I don't listen to a lot of radio. It's either podcasts or music. So I've got about 20 different podcasts that I listen to weekly. So you sort of get to. If you've listened to them, you've had a big week on the tractor or in the. Get through them all, and you're looking for something to listen to. You've had a big week in the cabin.
So what's your favourite social media platform? It's definitely not X.
No, which is disappointing
Yep.
because there's some bloody ribbon people on it, or were.
There were. Yeah.
Probably Instagram now. It's a good way to, again, sort of telling the story of what we're doing. Like, I'm sort of guilty of putting videos up with music to it. I sort of love my music, so always got a good background soundtrack to it. On Facebook, just for by default a bit, because football club and motorbike clubs that I sort of follow and that sort of stuff are on it, and everything seems to get posted on Facebook or what's going on and where it is and that sort of stuff. So yeah, probably Instagram's probably the main one, and YouTube. I do watch a lot of YouTube as well, and everything from farming to smoking meats to we don't generally watch it. There's free-to-air television's about gone, so it's Netflix or YouTube generally. But yeah,
So what's your favourite farming YouTube channel?
That's a good question, because everyone's doing something a bit different. It's Brian's farming videos. I don't mind in the States. And then the Jackson brothers, they're doing a good job. Like, they're pretty interesting stuff. And then, Larson Farms is a little bit, they've changed it a little bit because it became very scripted, and they've sort of gone back to their old ways a little bit. American one's probably Larson Farms, and probably Matt Jackson, his brothers, and that here in Australia. Yeah. Sorry, what did I say? Larson Farms? No, so Brian's farming videos in the States, and Jacko's here.
I agree with you with Larson Farms. They seem to went scripted when they started not to edit their videos themselves. That hasn't.
Yeah.
It's started to flow through a bit, but they've changed them a little bit.
Yeah.
Lately, so I don't know what.
Yeah, they had that intro with all the boys getting out of the cabins of the tractors and that sort of stuff, and I thought, it's a bit... Anyway.
Yeah, I know. So, what's your favourite drink?
Coffee.
Coffee.
Yeah, if I drank alcohol like I drink coffee, I'd be a raging alcoholic. No, I'm a 5 or 6 cup a day, man. Yeah, like I drink. I'll have a cup of coffee at 9 o'clock at night before I go to bed. That's a bit of a probably. My doctor tells me I'm healthy, but I don't know whether it is that healthy. But a couple of cups of coffee in the morning to get going, and one at morning tea time, and one at lunchtime, and coffee followed by rum. I'm quite partial to a good. We're not talking just stock standard yellow drum rum, like spiced rum or an aged rum. That's probably next. I sort of went through a period where I was drinking a lot like craft beer, like try something different of a Friday night. But if I'm drinking alcohol, it's I'll have a couple of beers, but then swap over to the rum generally. So it's funny, I don't drink. I don't drink a lot alcohol wise. Might have a couple of beers Friday night, or a ginger beer, like an alcoholic ginger beer. But Friday, Saturday night I might have a couple, but don't drink during the week generally. So, but coffee, Moccona instant.
As long as coffee don't take over from what your favourite food is.
Well, I've got to say lamb, I suppose. Being a sheep farmer, I've got to say lamb. We've got into our smoking meats game here. So that's probably one of the other hobbies. Never really been much of a cook, but we've got a couple of meat smokers here now. So, good smoked pork rib or a good beef brisket. You'll nearly have me at that. So
Sounds terrific, yep. So, what's your favourite machinery brand?
I'll probably have to go with Case. We've got my Case IH. That's the main equipment we've got on the farm here now. But we do have a couple of Fendt tractors here that take a bit of beating. Yeah. So, once you get into a Fendt tractor, it's very hard to go back. But Case, we've got a bit of red stuff as well, so we're sort of not quite 50-50.
Yep. Yep. And final question, if you had a money tree, what would be the ultimate piece of farm machinery you would buy?
Ultimate piece of farm machinery. I'd pay for some of the stuff I've got. It'd be a good start. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that's a good question. The ultimate piece of farm machinery. We'd probably buy, and this is going to probably throw you a little bit, and we probably intend we will buy one actually, is the ProWay bulk handler for drenching sheep.
Yep.
That sort of lifts them up and immobilises them. So it's on the wish list. Yeah, that's probably, tractors and headers, and I'm not going to, yeah, that'd probably, that's one of them's on the wish list. So it's not an expensive item. You get into one of them for 25 or 30 grand. So I've probably got a bit left to play with.
Money tree's got a few leaves left on it then.
Yeah, money tree. We can't strip him bare to start with.
No, that's...
Yeah, but there's some pretty cool tech, like you see the swarm bot units working in the flesh and that sort of stuff. Like one of them, if you didn't have to pay for it, you'd have one of them because they're just next level, amazing.
Yeah, I don't know. Yep, they look terrific. They do. No, that's
yep.
That's been a very good chat, John. We've really
we dragged on a bit.
No, you're right. It's really appreciate your insight to your farming and your YouTube channel. So yeah, thank you very much for that.
No, and well done to you, David. I know you've been poking around trying to get this cracking. We've sort of been messaging a bit on and off for the last 18 months, might even be 2 years, and you've done a good job with it. So I was a bit worried because you set the bar pretty high with your the guests you've already had. Those few of those young guys are kicking goals. So I thought, bloody hell. And I was a bit worried. I think Stuart Tatey was I can't remember how old he was, but I think he was worried he wasn't a young farmer anymore. I'm fighting it badly at 45, 46. I still think I'm a young farmer, but I think I might have to bloody wave the white flag.
Yeah, I'm a little bit above you, so I'm I'm definitely not in that league anymore. No, we appreciate your time, John.
No worries.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, David.
That was a great chat with John Bruce tonight. He's running a seriously diverse operation, and it's great of him to take time to share it with all of us, as well as on his YouTube channel. Big thanks to John for jumping on the podcast. If you're enjoying the podcast, give Ages of Farming a follow on Instagram and Facebook, and hit the follow bell on Spotify or Apple Podcasts so you don't miss the next episode. The next episode will be coming up shortly, and it will be a Tasmanian dairy farmer who's the next guest. So leave us a review or comments if you could, and we're keen to hear what you think of the podcast. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.